You know, one of the things that neoliberals are pushing is fracking, frack gas, and they've told a lot of lies about it, that it's the bridge to the future, it's clean, it's none of those things. And right now I'm gonna bring on two people fighting against corruption in government and fracking specifically. James Cromwell is an Oscar-nominated actor and activist, along with Pramila Malik, and they're here to talk about it. By the way, James was also part of the Wawayanda 6 who got arrested for protesting the CPV Valley Energy Center in Orange County, New York. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. So was Pramila, by the way.
Okay, yeah, Pramila, what did I say?
No, but she was also part of the, she went to jail.
Yes.
With,
we have one third of the Wawayanda 6 are right here with us today.
One third of the Wawayanda 6 right here with us. All right, thank you so much. So we're here to talk about, first of all, how's it going with the CP Valley Energy Center and your protests?
It's not going very well. We made every effort to get a stay on the construction of the Valley lateral pipeline, which brings the gas to the plant. Which goes, its right of way goes right through an endangered species habitat and affects a nest of 2 bald eagles, which are in residence, and they're preparing to breed, which is against the law that protects bald eagles. But the power of this company, this industry, is so great that they are able to manipulate both the court system, the regulatory agencies, the government. They can do anything. And that is why we are losing our democracy, because in every area, this is what is happening. The donors are taking over, and it is almost impossible for ordinary citizens to fight this. It takes all our time and all our effort, and we just don't have the clout. And the NGOs in the middle are conflicted, because they, of course, need access, and they want very much to push their agenda forward, which is not always the agenda of the grassroots people. And so there's this incredible tension and a lack of support on the part of these NGOs to support what we're doing.
So you're saying, you're making the case like people like the Sierra Club, like they're not necessarily in touch with the grassroots environmentalists because they're somehow co-opted, you're saying, by these same forces that want to implement these anti-environment policies?
Well, they have an agenda, and the agenda that they had originally was they wanted to stop coal and nuclear. And so they got caught up in that. The coal industry is moribund anyway. The nuclear industry in this particular area is epitomized by Indian Point. They wanted to close Indian Point and were willing to do almost anything to close Indian Point. And so they made an arrangement, a sort of quid pro quo, it seems, with Cuomo, that they would get the closure, the ultimate closure of Indian Point, which then they could trumpet to their membership and say, we did this, we stopped this power plant, it has to be done. And they would back off of CPV, which allows Cuomo to say to the business community, there will be no diminution of energy. We will still be producing it. It will be made up by this. We don't frack here. We have they call it a ban, but it is not a ban. It's a moratorium. It can be lifted at any time. And we will have the energy. The people who pay for this with their lives, their well-being, the futures of their children are the people in eastern Pennsylvania in the fracking fields, which are now becoming unlivable. With the build out of hydrofracking infrastructure, this will be repeated in community after community. The clean air plan, what they want is clean power plan. They want 300 of these things all over the country. And the pipeline is like a spider's nest, which will suffocate this country, will destroy what this country is and what the people want from this country.
So what you're saying is Governor Cuomo is making it look like he's friendly to environmental interests by putting a moratorium on fracking in the state of New York. But what they're really doing is fracking in Pennsylvania, and then they're building pipelines, which is destructive, as we all know, to carry that frack gas to a power plant in Orange County, New York. And that's so he's getting credit for doing something he shouldn't really be getting credit for.
Right. I mean, we don't have a ban, as you've stated, it's a moratorium, but everybody thinks it's a ban. The big green groups cast the executive order as a ban, and it's actually only contingent upon Cuomo staying in office, and that's something that has been, held over the heads of environmentalists in New York State as well. But, this power plant is being built to serve New York City. And New York City is the second largest consumer of power in the world. So what the approval of this plant did is it just handed the fracking enterprise the biggest market, one of the second biggest market in the world that they could have asked for. And so, you see with Governor Cuomo and with a lot of politicians, this kind of political optics and this game that they play on the issue of climate change and the environment. And the climate crisis is so great. It's so urgent. The magnitude is so great that we cannot afford any deception, any missteps. We can't afford to play politics with climate change. And that's what a lot of politicians are doing. And, our governor is aspiring to be a 2020 presidential candidate. And he is also aspiring, tries to cast himself as a progressive. But, if you scratch beneath the surface, you see the reality that there is this entrenched corruption in Albany. The presence of big moneyed interest really has our state government under siege. And I think that if this governor really wants to be a serious, viable candidate, he must exercise himself from this big moneyed interest. And the fact that this power plant is still under construction and still going forward when there's a federal indictment of aides directly in his office for their support for this power plant, it really questions whether he's ready to be a true progressive and to really exercise himself from big moneyed interest. And that's the big question we have to ask, both in terms of, are we going to have politicians that really represent the public interest or not? And I think that, fractivists are very concerned about, who our candidates are going to be in 2020 and where it's going to leave the environment.
Pramila, this is Steph Sommerone. Jamie, I really appreciate your activism. My question is, I know a little bit about Jerry Brown here in the state of California and how he seems to be a big friend of fracking, and I want to support your cause. What can I do here in California to help support?
Well, you have to start at the grassroots. These things have to be opposed. The local community has to be educated as to the threat that these plants represent to them. The state has got to be educated that it's the wrong way to the direction that they're going in terms of the development of energy. The public has to get behind initiatives that decrease the subsidies to fossil fuel industry and increase them to renewables. The only thing that's going to save us on every front is people educating themselves and going out in the streets, whatever protest, whatever is necessary. It's not going to be done through the government. It's not going to be done through the regulatory agencies. It's going to be done by individuals. This woman sitting next to me has dedicated her life for the last probably 8 years to stopping this, sometimes working completely alone. The reason that it's taken them so long is probably the activities of this woman. This is what every community needs, a Pramila Malik. Everyone. And every celebrity worth their salt should be out there saying, all the other issues are, of course, they're immensely important. They're all the same issue. The same dynamics occur in every issue. What happens in Hollywood in terms of the assault on women, the non-recognition of their value, the compensation for the work that they do is the same mentality. This is a profit mentality run by men who have lost contact with their own spirit and with the world and their responsibility to the future of the people of this country. They have to be reminded. They probably will be reminded by women.
Yes.
James Cromwell and Pramila Malik, they're fighting fracking. They're doing it locally in New York and Orange County against the CPB Valley Energy Center, but they're raising our consciousness about, of course, the problem in our country and culture right now is the complete and utter takeover of our government and culture by corporations and corporate money. They call it donations. They call it lobbying. It's flat out bribery. And that's what's happening in America. So we all have to raise our consciousness. Fracking bad, solar power good. Are you sick and tired of corporate Democrats as much as we are? Do you think we can have what the rest of the world has? Then come watch the Aggressive Progressives with us on the Young Turks Network.